This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick. It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department. That's right, this sweet baby was made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. It's got a walnut stock, cobalt blue steel, and a hair trigger. That's right, shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that? Now I swear, the next one of you primates even touches me. Yeah! Now, let's talk about how I get back home.
My Horrific Life's Erica Wright joins in.
Thanks for having me.
Nightmare nerd Daniel Ryan is out of deadites to kill.
Greetings, my fellow horror fanatics. This ought to be groovy.
Jonathan Mark of the Action Elite is looking for a new chainsaw.
Good to be here.
For those that don't know, yeah. Ash Williams. He's guy who's just always wrong place at the wrong time and groovy, baby. Daniel, I think you remarked about it before. You caught it in cable TV in the early days and how it was kind of just a rather talked about movie.
Yeah, it was really like around pretty much from like the 80s and 90s, Evil Dead was kind of a cult film. It was really in the 2000s it went mainstream.
That's a good way of putting it, because it's like now it starts getting played on, the first one to this day is still often played on Showtime and used to be frequently promoted on, it's on Netflix now, even probably the goriest movie on the streaming service by far. And, I would see it on IFC on occasion, and, Army of Darkness frequently showed on Sci-Fi Channel because it was a Universal co-production. And then, Evil Dead 2 just was talked about just because it launched again, more special effects guys like Robert Kurtzman and company, and just seeing other people even try and ape the various chainsaw fights or just little other references. And of course, not critical hits, and then remarked about afterwards. And I remember a recent interview how, Bruce Campbell, who also got his career launched by this, was like, we made a shitty movie, people loved it, so we made another shitty movie, people loved that too, and so on and so on and so on. Just seeing him have just kind of just no shame. And again, just even more, anytime you look at an article on Bloody Disgusting, Dread Central, or even a typical site reviewing fantasy or sci-fi or action movies, they'll even always say this is kind of like Evil Dead, and that just instantly gives you a picture is like what to expect. I've seen similar movies promoted that I haven't seen yet, like Hell Baby and Wormwood, Book of the Dead or something. It's like
The original working title.
Was that really? Okay, so there you go. Book of the Dead. Erica, did you frequent this on cable TV or the video stores, or was it just kind of in your household?
The original franchise, the first one I actually saw was Army of Darkness, and I think it was on USA.
That makes
was
sense.
much
Yeah.
more frequent play.
Mhm.
I just like loved how silly it was. I didn't see the first Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 until years later when I was in college, but loved those even more. Really loved the intensity of them and the gore. I felt like Evil Dead 2 was sort of the best of both worlds. It was very funny, but it was also very gory. That's probably my favorite of the film series.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, once they announced that they were having the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show, of course I had to watch that.
Right. And it was such BS when they're like, "Oh, we're canceling the show due to piracy." It's like you weren't even promoting it all that much.
Yeah.
It's like they got into a contract, didn't want to honor it, so then they just wanted to kill the show, and it's just like
Find every
there's so
excuse they
many
could.
reasons for the cancellation. It's like,
Yeah. That's how it always is. It's like if someone just doesn't like the first frame or one of the trailers, is like, it's amazing how they will just try any way they can to jeopardize a show's success. And it's like it's just so inconvenient to everybody involved to just want to do that. And even those who aren't familiar with it, they're going to see the trailer for that and be like, "This looks outrageous. Like, what the hell is this? I got to check it out," And so
Mm-hmm.
now, Daniel, you're pretty experienced knowing about some of the video games. I remember seeing at least 2 of them promoted in Game Informer. There was like one in like 05 that was like for PlayStation 2 and the PC, and then there was like 2 other ones.
Well, of course, there was the one all the way back in the 80s, for the Commodore 64, which is
Oh, really?
is atrocious.
Is it? It's worse than E.T. the video game.
But yeah, there was for the original PlayStation, I believe it was Evil Dead: Hail to the King, which was a fun game for its time, but it has not aged well at all. The controls in particular are god awful, and the way the camera angle is constantly changing.
Oh, is it kind of like Star Wars Jedi Power Battles, where you go to a certain area of the screen and it just randomly goes to like different angle, and you're like, "Wait, no, someone's attacking me!"
Yeah, but there are points where you've got some deadite attacking you from basically off screen because the camera angle's wrong, and you don't know what the heck you're supposed to do because you don't see where it's coming from.
Sounds like a junky version of one of those House of the Dead arcade games.
Yeah, and then came Evil Dead: Fistful of Boomstick, PlayStation 2, which
That's
IMO,
the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, IMO, that's the best of them.
And Ted Raimi came in to play a different character.
No, that was the next one.
Oh, okay. So that's the one I'm thinking of. He's playing a small person who is basically...
Yeah, Evil Dead: Fistful of Boomstick, to me, it has a brilliant story. It feels like a continuation from the films.
Where does it kind of line up? Is it kind of like set after part 2 or 3, or is it just kind of just?
It's basically I would say post part 2. If you didn't know about this, the original planned ending for Army of Darkness was going to be that Ash wakes up in a post-apocalyptic world where the Deadites took over.
Right.
That's kind of what they did with that particular game, was because that's the final stage. Ash has to go back in time. When he comes back to the present, it's a burnt-out apocalyptic world where the Deadites have taken over, and so I guess it picks up more directly after the second film.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then came Evil Dead Regeneration for PlayStation 2 as well. That it has not been ported to any other ones since, and none of them have, actually.
That's what's so weird. It's like there was plenty of gamers. They were always renting, various violent movies at the video store, so they always were pretty much in the know of, it's like, oh, I've seen that. I've seen, Warlock, RoboCop. I've seen all these various movies, and yet, like you say, it's like it was very limited appeal. Just like they would only do it for like the computer games, and Sony for whatever. I guess they had a stake in it. I don't know.
Yeah, and Then was Evil Dead Regeneration, and that's, again, it picks up after the second film. They totally disregard the other two games. And that's the one where Ted Raimi was Ash's sidekick, a dwarf Deadite.
Okay.
There you go. John, how did you come into knowledge of this in your household? Were your parents watching it, or you just see it at the video store and just be like, yeah, I gotta check this out?
Well, my brother actually had the DVDs of both Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. So we were able to watch both of them at the same time. And I didn't get to see the original until like many years later.
Oh, good.
So that's how I got introduced.
Yeah, this was pretty weird. I had a bunch of pals. They would like certain over-the-top movies and then be picky about others, and it was wild how it transferred. I see this movie's influence definitely in like the first two Mummies, even other just movies that have horror elements, but also have some darkly humorous stuff. We've talked about Wishmaster to death on here, but I see its influence even in parts of like the first Jeepers Creepers with some of the dialogue in that. Establishing shots. I mean, it is one of those. It's like I've seen some people listed as so bad it's good. I've seen people listed as classic. I've seen some people listed as cheesy but awesome. It is one of those. I don't think anyone really considers it a bad movie, any of these nowadays, but it is one of those, it's like, depending on the audience, depends on who you talk to. But I think most people will just instantly say, it's like, it's not just a movie. You don't get it. It's an action horror comedy, fantasy, or it's just a Bruce Campbell epic. So therefore, it's kind of like the William Shatner thing. It's like, it's not just a regular movie anymore. It's not just any movie. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
Well, I think it bears mentioning that the reason Evil Dead went mainstream in the 2000s, for one thing, was Sam Raimi directing the first three Spider-Man movies.
Even used the same cinematographer, Bill Pope, who he had used on Darkness and Darkmen. And Darkman was definitely another one where you saw a lot of his just zany moments where you're just like Tarantino. I don't know how to even classify this as a genre. It's just so loopy and awesome and outrageous.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.